Okay, this is a few days later. I decided that this here was too cold. It was only 18 Celsius, and so I put the belt on here. That's since brought up to, let's see, in Celsius it would be 21 and 22 degrees, as you can see over here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but seeing over here, you really can't see it, but here I've got a thermometer on this empty beer fermenter, and right now it is at 22. And if you can see the thermometer here, not really, can you? I have to bring it in closer. Bring it closer, you can see that my room temperature is right there at, and just sort of see this, at 20. Now these things are actually working very well. That's my my rum, molasses and brown sugar, water rum, if you will. I just showed you the Fontana mini wine kit. It's just going to town. It's really going to town. This one over here, on the other hand, I just filled it. This is now 3 days later after putting the ingredients into it and stirring it up, adding the yeast. I was a little disappointed. After 2 days, I had absolutely no bubbles on this bubbler up here. Absolutely none. Usually, within a day or two down here, I usually have it going to town. Normally, and I'm just going to bring the camera in as close as possible to show you. It'll be a little bit jiggly, perhaps. Look how crazy bubbling that is. You see that? That's what I usually get down here in this room. And everything I make. Because it's perfect temperature usually down here. It's usually 20. The lowest I've ever had is 18. And that's in the last couple of days. It's been so cold outside that it's been dropping down to 18 in here. But as you see, the temperature at that level right here, that temperature right there is 20, and it stays 20, 21 and a half all year round down here. So it's a pretty good temperature controlled room. However, I used the yeast that this came with. It was a Lavalin 1118, which is basically what this kit came in, and also what I use as a regular to do all my trials of beer or wine. I use Lavalin 118 because it gives the best alcohol tolerant yeast for the highest amount possible, up to 20%, and I've never had any problems with it. But for some funny reason, this yeast must have been bad or what, because after 2 days I had hardly any foaming, had hardly anything. So I got a little worried, and this morning I got up and I mixed up a water and sugar concentration, about 1/4 cup, added the rest of my 1118 yeast, waited till it started to ferment and foam into the jar, and then I poured it. I took out the stopper here and I poured it directly in. Then I added yeast nutrient from waste. I did that because I want to guarantee that it's going to get a kick-off start when it gets rolling. And this afternoon, that thing has built up pressure, so I know it's working. And that is within a few hours of me adding this yeast mixture. So I know that the kit came with yeast, and the yeast package says to refrigerate. And of course, who knows how long it's been sitting in the shops of wherever it came from. So the yeast has probably been hot and cold, and it's probably not good anymore. And you're going to get that every once in a while. You don't know how fresh these kits are. So hopefully this will just take right off and do its thing, although a slow start. Now, I like the format that Craig's Tube puts on, because he not only shows you the process of putting it together, adding the yeast, sanitizing. I like the fact that he does his taste tests, because frankly, you can go through all kinds of kits and see how it's done, how it's made, the product that goes into it. But unless you actually do it yourself and perhaps waste your time and money and whatever to taste it yourself, you really don't know what it's going to taste like. So I like the idea that he does this little taste test. That's awesome. That's great. I love it. Okay. I have this camera on a stand because the last time I did a few videos like this, it was pretty jiggly, and YouTube just said, hey, it's jiggly, do you want some help with that? I'm using an iPhone, just so you know, and it's all by hand because I don't have a proper HD camera. At some point, I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. However, I did want to notice that most of the things that Craig's Tube does is for beer makers and for people who can stand gluten. Well, I was diagnosed not very long ago that I can't really have gluten, so that's kind of a depressing thing for me. So as you can see, this is a Cooper's lager, as you see the box there. This was a Cooper's beer fermenter, and of course I can't do the regular gluten beers anymore. So I decided, you know what, I bet you there's a lot more people out there like me. So I decided to start making and building and designing my own beer, gluten-free beer. All natural grains are being used, and for a matter of fact, I just want to show you something here. This is, well, what's left of it, of course, and there's a lot of sediment from the bottom of the bottle. But this is an ancient grain. Now I'm going to take the camera off the stand. I'm going to bring it over to my screen, and hopefully it doesn't mess up the camera. I want to show you basically what the ingredients are. Okay, let's just get this sorted out here. Okay, so here we have my ingredients for this. Basically a test batch. So there it is, gluten-free, that's with the GF, gluten-free ancient grain. And the reason why it's ancient grain is because if you take a look at the list, you'll see a lot of the grains in there that are quite old. But specifically, what you'll notice is this. That one is a fairly old grain. There's a lot of other older grains out there that I really couldn't get at the time I made this. And this, right here, is that ingredients in behind there that you can see. And you know what? It tastes pretty good. But I think I just might change a few things up on this ingredients. I'm going to change this to some brown sugar, I do believe. Now I don't know if I want to go medium light or if I want to go really dark with a lot of heavy molasses. But after watching Craig Tube, I was seeing what he did with his beer, that Cooper's Lager. And if it's going to add body and bottomness to the actual flavor of the beer, then that's exactly what I want. Because this beer, although is hoppy in its sass form, which is the hops I use, and it's good, it's delicious, it's really good, but it doesn't have a lot of head retention, as you saw. No head retention at all. It doesn't even foam out of the bottle for very long. And it's cloudy. See? It tastes good, but there's just something missing. It's that body, it's that, obviously it's gluten-free, so you're not going to have that malty flavor. So I'm hoping that the brown sugar will give it more of a malty flavor. So I'm just going to scroll down here. I'm going to back out a little bit. There we go. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so you can see what this ingredients is all about. Now this is something I've made. Now you can add to, do more, whatever you like to this. I'm just going to scroll down here. So my procedure here is this. Basically you have to sprout your beans, or sprout your seeds rather. Now I'm going to probably do a video perhaps on that, showing you how to sprout them. And everybody has their way of sprouting, but typically it's just changing the water out of the bean or the seeds until they start to actually grow little legs or sprout themselves. And then at that point you can either dry them, or you can put them in your oven to dry them, or you can dry them with a dehydrator. If you put them in the oven, you can also malt them by actually burning them a little bit, by cooking them until they change color. And by changing color, they get drier. And the burning basically gives the beer more flavor, gives the beer some color, and things like that. So I'm going to post this probably on Canadian Homebrewers. So if you want to check them out, check for this titling right here, GF Ancient Grain Ale. Okay, thanks for watching.